You say social media often creates echo chambers, reinforcing our existing beliefs and biases.
I love to think I know something and then somebody lets me know I really didn't know what I was talking about. Saying I don't know is very freeing.
Charlamagne the God is back. The man who's not afraid to ask the tough questions and drop truth bombs. Known for his ability to interview politicians and celebrities with the same unique point of view, he helps drive the national conversations. I'm talking about race, culture, politics. He's best known for co-hosting iHeartRadio's The Breakfast Club. I've been a guest there multiple times. It's always a good hang and a really meaningful conversation. We talk about things that matter. He's also the CEO of the Black Effect Podcast Network, his own production company, and co-hosts the popular podcast, The Brilliant Idiots. I'm going to have links to all of that on DrPhil.com and MeritStreetMedia.com. He's the author of the New York Times best-selling Black Privilege, the global bestseller Shook One, and he hates small talk. He just doesn't like small talk, and we're going to discuss that today for sure. He's got a new book. This new book is really interesting. Get Honest or Die Lying. I've read this book. You're going to read this book. You want to buy 2 copies of this book and save yourself the trip or save yourself having to ship something again, because you're going to want to read it and you're going to want to give one to somebody that you care about. This is medicine for society, and God, do we need medicine for this society right now. So without further ado, welcome. Good to have you back.
Dr. Phil, thank you for having me, brother. How are you?
I am well. Where are we talking to you from today?
I'm in Jersey. I'm home in Jersey.
All right, cool. So you've written this new book. What got you tackling these subjects? I love what you're writing about here. And I mean that not because we're friends, but because I like what you're talking about.
Well, I'm always writing. So my last book came out in 2018, Shook One, Anxiety Playing Tricks on Me. Thank you, for having me on and to support that book as well. But 6 years later, I've just been constantly journaling and just really just observing the world. So this book is really just my take on just things that I've been seeing in society. And what I started to, come back to was, number one, a theme about social media and, the impact that I think social media is having on us as a society. And I went on this spiritual retreat earlier this year, back in February. And one of the things that came up for me was, stop lying to yourself and stop volunteering those lies to other people. Because I feel like that's what everybody in society is doing nowadays, especially because of social media. Because, you wake up in the morning, it doesn't matter who you are. If you got 100 followers, 200 followers, 300 followers, 3 million, you feel like you got to perform for people. So you're never truly getting, who people really are anymore. Like, everybody's approaching life with a mask, with this persona. And so it's just I don't feel like things are going to ever, really move forward in our society the way we want them to, unless people, start being honest with themselves first. And when you're honest with yourself, then you'll volunteer that truth to others, as opposed to volunteering those lies to others. And, the why small talk sucks, came into play because I just feel like, man, we don't even know how to have big conversations anymore, Dr. Phil. I feel like everybody's so focused on confrontation over conversation. And it's like everybody has to pick a side as opposed to sitting down and having a discussion and maybe coming up with some solutions to these problems. And, everything is weighted on the same scale nowadays. Like the micros are on the same scale as the macros, and we're acting like these things weigh the same. And so when it comes time for us to have actual big discussions about things, we don't even know how, if we even choose to at all.
Only 23% of adults use Twitter, and 80% of that content is posted by 10% of the users. So you've only got 23% using it, and only 10% of them put up most of the content. So you really have a small group of people. It's like the tail wagging the dog. Everybody runs scared of trending negatively on Twitter or X or whatever. But I wonder if some of that is legitimate, because if they get after somebody, they start calling their job, to get them fired, or if they're in business, they call their suppliers, they call their advertisers, they call people and get them to boycott. I had a woman on the show, Dr. Carol Hooven from Harvard University. She went to Harvard and then she was a professor there for 20 years. She came on my show and Fox and Friends, and she just reported the data on trans athletes competing with biological athletes. Wasn't even her research. She just said, I study this area, so I'm going to report what the data is. And she just said the data says that you'll never get a level playing field. I don't care how much testosterone blocker you take. You'll never get a level playing field. That's what the data is from a meta-analysis of 50 plus studies. And they labeled her transphobic, drummed her out of that university after 20 years, said she was peddling hate speech, was transphobic, and drummed her out of the university and absolutely ruined her career just for reporting data. And she's actually very supportive of the transgender community. Didn't matter. It was like, got one, here we go, and she's gone. So I wonder if some of that is sadly legitimate.
Yeah, I'm sure it is legitimate, but what I would tell people who do things like that, you got to understand that that's a circular firing squad. So eventually, everybody's gonna take everybody out because if you dare to have an opinion about anything, or you dare to even objectively study something, the nuance of something, and you are able to see both sides, and like you said that woman was just reading the data based off something that she saw. So she's just presenting another side of the argument. If you dare to just present the other side of the argument, now somebody's going to be calling your job to have you fired. I don't respect people like that, Dr. Phil. What I like for people to do is if you believe something, you should be able to debate that something. You should be able to talk about that something. You should be able to say, hey, I hear your data, but this is what my research shows me, or this is what my lived experience shows me. If all you do is rush to go get somebody canceled, I don't think you have much of an argument, and I don't think you probably believe what you say you believe.
3 times as many people today are less apt to speak up than in 1950. That's got to be because of social media and the internet. They're just not willing to speak up.
Yeah, I don't have any problem, having conversations with anybody, but I can totally understand why people would have reservations, in this era, simply because you have a bunch of anonymous people that you don't even know attacking you via social media, or calling your job or emailing your job. You don't even know who these people are.
I've got a buddy that's a member of a SWAT team in Dallas, and under all of his other gear, he wears a T-shirt that says, "You can run, but you'll just die tired."
Hilarious.
That's how I feel about getting away from yourself. You can run, but you'll just die tired. You can't escape you. I don't care what you do. You cannot escape you.
I say that in the book. You can't run from yourself. Like, that's literally what I'm trying to tell people. Get honest or die lying. What you just said is even better. Get honest, or you're going to die lying and tired.
Yeah.
like you cannot outrun yourself. Like, if you don't deal with your trauma will ultimately deal with you. Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and try to tell anybody what to do with themselves until I fix what's in me first.
Yeah. You have a chapter called Imposterism. You say the imposter syndrome affects many, but recognizing it is the first step towards overcoming it. And I thought this was such a profound observation, because I think so many people feel like they're masquerading, feel like they're one step ahead of being found out. And they live with that all their lives. Like, I'm not who I really present myself to be. I'm one step ahead of being found out. If you ever get real with yourself, you don't have to live with that fear anymore.
That's right. Because if you're real with yourself, you won't be afraid to say, I don't know. You won't be afraid, to be embarrassed. Like, I'm never embarrassed, by what I don't know. I'm embarrassed by what I refuse to learn. And so that's why I get so upset at a lot of these academics nowadays, and these people who have these PhDs in their names, and no offense, but having the DR in front of their name, because all of these people that are so, academically smart, it's like they have no lived experience and they're afraid to actually, learn anything new because they approach every situation like they know it all already. And it's like, especially when it comes to like societal issues, man, I say it all the time. You got a lot of people talking about people that they never talk to.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't sit around and talk about what's going on in the world and talk about what's going on in certain communities if you've never actually went to speak to those people. One thing that you did, Dr. Phil, that I respect so much, you went to the border.
Yeah.
You went to go see what was actually going on. That gives you a different perspective than a lot of people.
Man, it was an eye-opener, I'll tell you. I went to Israel because I wanted to see what was going on over there. I walked through those kibbutz that had been attacked and talked to the people who watched their families get slaughtered. I feel like I can't talk about it if I haven't seen it, if I haven't been there and stood in the shoes and talked to the people. Other than that, it's just an academic exercise.
That's right. And honestly, I've heard people, I know people who've been to Palestine and been to Israel. And I just listen when they're telling me things because they have more experience than I do on any of those situations, And it is just weird to me when I see people like, just speak about things they have no knowledge of with like extreme confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. Not always right, but never in doubt, right?
Yeah. And it's usually, I'm telling you, it's usually a lot of the academics because a lot of them nowadays, they too are getting a lot of their information, from social media. And so being that they're getting a lot of their information from social media, what they're really feeding themselves is narratives. And they will really push those narratives as if those narratives were facts. And people will listen to them because of, what their educational background is. But to me, they're the most ignorant type. Because you're not even really digging deeper into the story. You're just, going off the headline.
We talked about your chapter 27 echo, and right now it's like nobody in America can be convinced of anything anymore. It's like everybody is so locked in, and if you even ask questions, the cancel culture gets after you, and we got to be able to ask questions. I would rather have questions I can't answer than answers I can't question. When we get in the situation where we have answers we can't question, we're in a real bad spot. You got to be able to say, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right to me.
That's right. And I talk about it in the book. The other thing to add to that, Dr. Phil, is it's okay to not know. Like I think that, human beings, we fear what we don't understand so much that we try to make sense of everything, and everything has to have an explanation behind it. Everything has to have a reason behind it. Sometimes it's just simply okay to be like, I don't know why that is the way it is.
I just did a show that said we get 97% of our antibiotics from China.
Damn.
97% of our antibiotics come from China. Now, what
97?
97. Now, what happens if they decide, nah, not going to ship them over there? We'd be in a hell of a mess. Our enemy is providing 97% of our antibiotics.
What if they decide not only, we're not going to ship it over there, but what if they decide to engage in some type of chemical warfare?
Exactly. And then we don't have anything to fight it with, and we don't have a stockpile, and we don't have the infrastructure to fight back. And it is hard. I get it's a tough problem. It's hard to fight back when they were paying 47 cents an hour in their factories. We can't do that. It's hard to fight that. That's what I mean when I say that's been going on for at least 20 years. We don't really have problem solvers trying to solve these problems, or I think we'd have figured out an alternative.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. Maybe you and I should take it over.
I like focusing on what I can actually change. Like I believe in the Serenity Prayer where it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I know where I can actually, enact change. I know I can enact change in my, community in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, or in Charleston, South Carolina. I know I can enact change, in Jersey or New York by doing different initiatives, whether it's partnering with the food bank in Harlem, which I do. Because it's simple, like I said, it's simple things. Like, man, when you go, and by the way, Dr. Phil, there's people already doing all of this work. So all it takes is somebody like me or you to come in and help amplify the work that people are already doing. Like I have a, nonprofit called the Mental Wealth Alliance, and we're trying to provide, 10 million, Black and brown people therapy over the next 5 years for free, right? But I'm partnered with people who already do the work, like Dr. Alfie Breland Noble. So I'm just helping to amplify what they're already doing. Or the food bank in Harlem, they're already there providing free meals for people. They're already there providing groceries for people. So I'm just there to amplify, the work that they're already doing. I was just in South Carolina with former Mayor Tecklenburg, and I was down at the shelter, and I was just seeing what they're doing with the homeless there. And, I'm going to be sponsoring breakfast for them for a year. And when he told me the number that it costs to do that, it actually pissed me off, because I'm like, this is nothing for the local government to cover.
Yeah.
Nothing. So why, like literally nothing. So why aren't they doing it?
It's amazing. When you work with some of these food banks, they can get 8 meals out of $1. It's astounding because they have a lot of in-kind. They get day-old bread. They get stuff that's just perfectly good. We eat day-old bread at home every day, 3-day, 4-day-old bread at home. It's not like it's a bad thing, but that's what you and I can do. People ask me all the time, am I ever going to get into politics? My answer is not just no, it's hell no. I can do a lot more and have a bigger impact from the outside in than the inside out.
I 100% agree. And I mean, I think I have a lot of politicians. I have a lot of politicians that I associate with, and I'd rather just sit around and have these conversations with them and, connect them with the real people who have their feet on the ground, so they can hear from these individuals, so they can know, the things that they should be doing while they're in office. And you got some good ones around the country doing some really great things. I like what Governor Wes Moore, just did in Maryland. By pardoning everybody who has the misdemeanor marijuana offenses. I like, what, Governor Josh Shapiro is doing in Pennsylvania in regards to, criminal justice reform and probation reform. So you got some people around the country that's doing some really good things.
Yeah, we really do. And we need to be sure and call those people out and let people know that they're doing a good job and support them when they do.
That's right.
You and I should talk more often. We don't talk enough. We do it every once in a while, but we need to talk more often than we do.
Man, I would love that, Dr. Phil. I absolutely would. I always appreciate the conversation. Certain people you have conversations with, they make you feel sane, and you're one of them.
Well, I feel the same way. Listen, the book is Get Honest or Die Lying: Why Small Talk Sucks by Charlamagne the God. This book, I'm telling you, you think when you have somebody on your show that you're supposed to say nice things about their book. That's true. Of course you do. You don't get people on to insult their book. But you guys know me. All I would have to do is mention this book at the top and the bottom, and that would be it. I would have checked the box. I'm not checking the box here. This book is good. It's thoughtful. It's written about the things that you're experiencing in your life from somebody that gets real and has the authenticity to give a voice to the things that will be thought-provoking for you. It will make you think. It will make you sit down and say, well, where do I stand on that? What am I saying to myself about that? And one of the most important things he says is, you're not lying to other people, you're lying to yourself, and then you're just giving it to them. So it's so important. You did a good job on this one. Not that you didn't on the others, but this one really rang true with me, and it couldn't be more timely. It absolutely couldn't be more timely. So congratulations on this book.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. I really appreciate it. It means the world coming from you.
Well, listen, we're going to put this book up. If you guys want a link to it where you can go directly to get the book, I'm going to put it on drphil.com, on meritstreetmedia.com. Everywhere that you guys find me, you're going to find a link to this book so you can get it. Like I said, buy 2 copies because you're going to wish you had another one to give to somebody you care about. So I hope you'll do that. We're going to stay in touch more often, okay, my friend?
Let's do it, Dr. Phil. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll talk soon. Take care.
Right. Peace.